Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. My name is Sean, and today we got to talk about the debate between Kamala Harris and President Trump. It was the first one, it may be the last one, because a lot of people in the mainstream media are eager to tell you that Kamala dominated the debate, despite the fact that what they said she needed prior to the debate did not occur. So yes, this is a loss for Kamala Harris, not a great performance from President Trump, and I'm going to break down exactly why that is the case. But before we get into that, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay.
So what you need to understand right off the top is that the mainstream media is going to tell you that the Democratic candidate is going to win each and every debate against President Trump. And this was even true of Joe Biden's debacle of a performance, in which all these same mainstream media people told you that actually Joe Biden definitely won that debate. So already we can dismiss them out of hand. However, we need to be fair. We need to actually analyze this, and we need to base this on what was stated as the goal of each of the candidates prior to getting into the debate. For instance, I'm often one to reference President Trump's first debate against Vice President Biden back in 2020, where Trump said he was going to show the world that Joe Biden can't even speak. And throughout the whole course of that debate, he talked over Joe Biden, so nobody noticed that Joe Biden can barely speak. And this is why I said at the time, and I will say now, that was Trump's worst debate performance, and that was his loss in an absolutely crucial time in the 2020 election, because people pay attention to the first debate the absolute most, and mail-in ballots were going out already, and the second debate ended up being canceled, and then the third debate was late after a bunch of people had already voted via mail and early voting. So what we're looking at right here is what was the narrative going into this conversation. And for Kamala Harris, they needed a big moment in this debate, and I will wait for anybody to produce the viral clip of Kamala absolutely destroying Trump from said debate. Waiting on it because it doesn't exist. And again, don't take my word for it. Think about all the complaining that the Harris campaign did in the lead up to this debate about the rules, about the muted mics, all the leaked information about how her plan was to have a I'm speaking girl boss type of moment, and that moment wasn't present throughout the whole course of this conversation. And since Kamala had been dropping in the polls, and one of the reasons why she's dropping in the polls is because undecided voters feel like they don't know anything about her, the other thing that she could have achieved was actually giving the American people a good look on what she stands for, what she's going to do, and she did not deliver in that regard. I mean, from the opening answer, she immediately was talking nonsense.
Vice President Harris, you and President Trump were elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle-class kid. And I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have a shortage of homes and housing, and the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people. We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time, so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children. My passion, one of them, is small businesses. My mother raised my sister and me, but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner.
Now, to be 100% fair to Kamala Harris, even though she looked absolutely terrified in the first two questions that she received during the debate, she did settle in later, and she actually stumbled upon a strategy that she should have went with more often, which of course is attacking Trump's ego, because Trump was pretty solid in the first 30 minutes. Then all of a sudden, Kamala started talking about people leaving his rallies because they're bored, and Trump got on the defensive, lost focus, and did many of the bad Trump things that we are all familiar with.
And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first, and I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so, that would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border?
First, let me respond as to the
Please.
rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there, and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but this is not good. Undecided voters don't care about how fun your rally is, and in this moment in time, he totally took the bait right there, and that is a highlight in terms of debate performance for Kamala Harris, but again, it is not the moment that she was looking for. Now, while this was going on, I was actually in a Discord call with about 7 or 8 other people, and I had told them, you'll know that the Harris campaign is not satisfied with this conversation if they demand an additional debate. And wouldn't you know it, they immediately demanded an additional debate after this debate because they don't have that clippable viral moment. And you have to understand the context of this. President Trump demanded 3 debates early on. It is very standard, and in fact, it happens each and every cycle, except, of course, for 2020, for there to be 3 debates. Kamala Harris rejected it over and over and over again because she wanted to have her moment here and then be one and done. But in this particular case, the moment didn't occur, and all of a sudden, she's releasing a statement demanding a debate, and Trump called that out after the debate by saying that she's asking for it because she knows she lost. And this is true because her goal was to get a viral moment. And hilariously enough, the evil orange man actually said her own line to her, and you can actually see where that fake smile that they told her to keep on her face the whole entire time dies for a second with this micro expression.
We're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now. If you don't mind, please. Does that sound familiar?
Now, again, this is good stuff from President Trump. It is funny. It is a viral clip. I find it entertaining. He actually shushed her again, and there's a couple of things that he did positive, and one of which was the fact that he didn't let the moderators control the debate, and when he wanted to speak, he just kept talking until they turned his mic on. And by contrast, Kamala Harris, when she tried to use this tactic, ended up submitting to the moderators and letting them take over, which gives the appearance of weakness. Again, this is all about appearances. What's said doesn't really matter. There's not all that much substance there unless you absolutely bungle it. And neither candidate said something that was so outrageous, so crazy, so out of character for them that I believe it swayed any votes. So yeah, when I say Kamala didn't win, what I mean is that she did not achieve her 2 goals coming into this debate. She did not separate herself from Joe Biden, throw the new vision that's supposed to win people over, and she did not have that key viral moment that she was fighting tooth and nail in order to get the rules changed for, because it just didn't happen. And again, if it did, if you have this amazing clip, this amazing highlight, feel free to show me that clip. @reply me on Twitter with this heroic girl boss moment that she was desperately waiting for. That being said, the evil orange man did not do all that well himself. I know a lot of people are harping on the moderators, the fact that they fact-checked him 5 to 11 times, and they didn't do it once for Kamala, despite the fact that she was also lying about this debate about old debunked stuff, like the Charlottesville good people on both sides thing, where she claims that he was praising the white nationalists, the neo-Nazis, despite the fact when you run the clip to its full extent, exactly the opposite is true.
But this is not an isolated situation. Let's remember Charlottesville, where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side.
Kill the person. Heather hired Charlottesville. They showed up in Charlottesville to protest.
Excuse me, they didn't put themselves down as you. And you had some very bad people in that group. But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group, excuse me, I saw the same pictures as you did. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name. You're changing history, you're changing culture, and you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally.
There was also the bloodbath thing where Trump was saying it would be a bloodbath for manufacturing jobs if he lost the election. That, of course, Kamala just cut off another fragment of that and said he's promising a bloodbath, like he's going to start a civil war if he loses this election, which is absurd in every possible way.
And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking. Let's turn the page on this.
China now is building a couple of massive plants where they're going to build the cars in Mexico and they think that they're going to sell those cars into the United States with no tax at the border. Let me tell you something to China. If you're listening, President Xi, and you and I are friends, but he understands the way I deal, those big monster car manufacturing plants that you're building in Mexico right now, and you think you're going to get that, you're going to not hire Americans, and you're going to sell the cars to us. Now, we're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it.
And of course, there's the Project 2025 lies where she claims that that is the evil orange man's platform, despite the fact that Project 2025 is just the Heritage Foundation's proposal, their paper that they produce as an independent think tank, and they produce them each and every election cycle as the potential agenda for what a Republican should do if they win. Kamala Harris knows that, but more importantly, the supposedly unbiased moderators know that, and yet they didn't fact check her once throughout the course of this debate. Now look, a lot of people have pointed out that it was 3 versus 1, and this is absolutely pathetic and shameful, and while all of those things can be true, the fact of the matter is, the person who needed to point that out at the time, in the moment, was President Trump. If after the second or third time that they decided to pause the debate and fact check him, and they allowed Kamala to lie 2 or 3 times throughout the course of the debate, and that had already passed, Trump said, "Oh, you're helping her out again? Well, she needs it," or started referring to the moderators as Kamala's helpers, then that would have sent the message strongly to the American people that something unusual is going on here, because these moderators are completely in the tank for Kamala Harris. Now, that did happen. People can see that, but pointing it out, highlighting that Kamala needs the help from the moderators, that they're assisting her, that they're trying to rig this debate in her favor, would have been the best move to use in that particular situation.
Vice President Harris, I want to give you your time to respond, but I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade, and as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America.
You should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you answer the question? Would you
because
veto?
under Roe v.
Answer
Wade,
the question, would you veto?
you could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th
That's
month,
not true.
and probably after birth. Just look at the governor, former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said, we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
We're going to turn now to immigration and border security.
There are many other missed opportunities there, like the fact that Kamala would not answer questions. And while she, of course, did well in the abortion section of the conversation, because that issue is a winning issue for the Democrats, when Trump asked, or actually when the moderator asked, if she would support any limitation at the end range of abortion, she totally danced around that situation. And then President Trump asked again if she supported it in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month, and she never answered. By contrast, of course, when Kamala Harris demanded that Trump answer a question, the moderators went along with that because, again, they were there to aid her. You got to press that point. These people will not commit to any limit on the long end, and if the line of attack you're going to use is that these people are the extremists, then you got to put that forward.
Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border. How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate, because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border, because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The President of the United States, you'll get him out of bed, you'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you'll say, come on down to the office, let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed. Those people are killing many people, unlike J6.
Now, look, obviously, I enjoyed the point about waking up Joe Biden, who's probably asleep at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and having him go and sign an executive order. He meant sign a bill, but it's an executive order in order to solve the issues at the border. Do it right now instead of saying that you're going to do it after you're elected. And his closing statement on its own was actually very good.
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it, and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like we're not going to frack, we're not going to take fossil fuel, we're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world, they laugh. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
And it was definitely a great decision for him after winning the coin toss to elect to close out the debate, because in a debate where there aren't any highlights for your opponent, the last thing is very likely to be the thing that sticks in people's minds. So yeah, overall, this debate lacked the entertainment value that I wanted. Of course, it was going to have any substantive policy or anything like that. Kamala Harris doesn't have any policies. I know she just threw some on her website 10 minutes ago, but the fact of the matter is she is running on vibes and feelings and joy. And by the way, she's collapsing in the polls due to that. But yeah, this is basically what I expected. I was hoping that the evil orange man would be better throughout more points in the debate. You got some joke moments that are going to make people in the audience happy, but I don't think this actually serves either candidate. But considering Kamala is not doing media interviews and she needs the free media because that's the biggest advantage that she's wasting, because when you're on a major party ticket as a presidential nominee, you get that free media. She didn't do well. On top of that, she and all of her staff were talking about how she was going to prosecute the case against President Trump. She was going to take him to task, and she was going to have her big girl boss moment. And again, that just did not happen. And if you have evidence that that did happen, I will wait for it. Show me the clip that the Harris campaign is trotting out as their big moment. Again, it's not existent. It is not a thing that occurs. Oh, and one last note, there's a lot of people posting images of earrings that are actually an earpiece that look similar to the ones that Kamala was wearing. And if she had an earpiece in her ear, which I am not thinking that she did, I'm going to say I doubt this, then it didn't help her at all. It's not like she was delivering concise body blows to President Trump. She just kind of stood there. She smiled a lot, which obviously they told her to do, but again, she does not have that major highlight that her campaign was hoping for throughout the course of the debate, and that's why she didn't win the debate, because she didn't achieve her objectives. Now look, you guys out there in the audience can disagree with me if you want. You could think that I'm being too harsh on the evil orange man. You could say, oh, I'm so partisan because I'm saying Kamala didn't win, when all this partisan mainstream media is saying she definitely win. But the fact of the matter is, all of your opinions, unless they agree with my opinion, is wrong. Just incorrect, not even close. I am correct on this issue, and there is no room for discussion. But if you want to have a discussion, if you want to place your wrong opinion down in the comments below, feel free to do so. As usual, if you like this video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about Trump versus Kamala Harris. Till next time.